I'm not sure what you did to deserve a whole rant about
He's
you, but
gone pretty insane, obviously. And besides, with us being friends with the so-called purists, it's a given that he would attack us just for that. And I would rather strike preemptively.
So let's touch on a couple of points of contention. 1. You say everyone who disses your work are being manipulated and controlled by the elite. While this statement is very flattering, you haven't bothered to consider the other possibility, that people on their own decided that they don't like your characters. No matter how you look at it, it's a lose-lose situation for you. You could of course make some adjustments. 2. You make grand statements about how the corporations and Illuminati and Vatican control everything, but all it amounts to is bitching and whining. Where's your plan of action? You dislike how the world is being run now, but where's your alternative? People wouldn't mind you so much if you didn't keep shoving your ideas down everyone's throats at every opportunity, and perhaps even did something to change the world rather than just complaining about it. 3. In a recent video you made a comment that Latinos were not as smart as other people. A comment that most people jumped on immediately, just like when now Supreme Justice Sotomayor said out of context that, "I would hope that a wise Latina woman with the richness of her experiences would more often than not reach a better conclusion than a white male who hasn't lived that life." A reasonably understanding person could let that slip, assuming you meant something else. But no, you decided to go full racist mode with the text you added in your channel recently.
And that's to say nothing about the background on your YouTube channel.
But enough of that. Let's stay m.u.g.e.n specific, shall we?
Functionality is the biggest concern among the so-called purists. With the accurate characters, there is at least a certain guarantee that the character would maintain a similar level of functionality from the source, having at worst the glitches from the source games carrying on to the m.u.g.e.n conversion. Various Capcom and SNK games Evil's Lair X5 mentioned are typically associated with quality, and thus the people usually expect them to carry on. Of course, if you know what you are doing in terms of coding and design, you can make a non-accurate conversion that would still retain the similar quality, sometimes even outperforming the original source material in certain areas, depending on different circumstances.
Also, what is a purist? One who can only accept 100% accuracy, or else? One who refuses to try new things? One who believes something can only be done one way? I dare say they do not exist in the m.u.g.e.n community. The true purists play the source games and don't ever touch m.u.g.e.n in their lifetime, let alone speak kindly of it.
Perhaps accuracy also has its use. Using mostly accurate conversions would help you seamlessly transit into their respective source games in case one would like to try out the real thing, and vice versa, though some mistakes are inevitable.
You should be aware of purpose in everything you do. You must first learn and master the rules before you can break them. When you deviate from what is accepted, what is normal, what is accurate, you should be able to give a clear reason why it was changed. Many people will tell you that a character doesn't feel right, or seems like random moves thrown together, without being able to explain it. But they are probably not wrong. The human mind works the same for most people, and the mind knows to look for certain patterns and aesthetics that it deems are correct. A grand majority of people who create original characters focus on what they want to see happen without having a clear goal for the identity of the character. No amount of pretty effects and sprites can replace the elegance that comes from properly designing a character.
Did you know that with allow debug keys set to 1 in your m.u.g.e.n configuration file, there are hotkeys that would allow you to toggle the eye for various players in-game? I use those for my every match I record, and you would use those to let the AI take control over your opponent, as well as letting you control your character in case you launch some watch mode. That is, considering that you can play fighting games at all. I've said that because we all highly doubt your claim to being a fighting game enthusiast. We all know you are in fact a rabid fan-hater of SNK and Capcom games. I also recalled from memory on how you have expressed hatred of various doujin games, such as Melty Blood, Eternal Fighter Zero, and even the fighting games based on the Toho project because they were apparently popular. Don't you have a contempt against a fighting game genre in general? From these observations, it seems so. You call yourself an exiled one, when it is apparent that you never belonged to the community in the first place. The community, devoted to the engine, focused on developing friggin' fighting games. If there is anything you like, though, how about would you, for example, simply make a character with almost replicated gameplay from your preferred source game? Some people did it right. Or even better, if you so insist of making something really different, why don't you just do exactly that? You say that the situation in the m.u.g.e.n community mirrors your John Carpenter dystopia. I think what's happening in the m.u.g.e.n community more like parallels my m.u.g.e.n dystopia, where people are so dumb that they're sometimes, as it was in the case with, let's say, the recent MTV Awards, choose against quality. And yes, that thing did happen to the m.u.g.e.n community at least a few times. Perhaps sometimes, some people do look down upon what the hell they have previously chosen. I would like to call it a James Cameron's Titanic effect. Yes, everybody went crazy of this overrated movie once it came out, but a month after everybody bitched about it, and now nobody will ever admit to liking it. Similar thing also happened few times in the m.u.g.e.n community as well. Let's face it, I'm pretty sure hardly anybody bemoaned Resident Duo and Shin Yaoga's Mario as cheap back when they came out. The updates can do it as well, as it was the case with the joint venture of Rusaki and Kabao, Yoko Ritona. Again, people praised this character back when it came out, but then came the updates that broke her even more than the much reviled Sandman for the Scout, and thus it all came the way of Titanic. The movie, of course.
It's not even popular belief. When there are legitimate issues or feedback to be given, it is largely ignored. It quickly became clear that the only real way to get a point across was to be the biggest elephant in the room, and so it was. We've seen a change only recently that average m.u.g.e.nites would take part in bashing and realize that not everything is made of solid gold. Unfortunately, it also paved the way for baseless and uninformed negative feedback. If you want to see communities that have not gone along with this trend, all you need to do is look past the major forums, with the exception of Infinity m.u.g.e.n Team.
The freedom, while both horrifically abused and underused at the same time, is still there. You tell that SNK is all that matters in m.u.g.e.n. At least it's not like about 8 years ago, when m.u.g.e.n was mostly Dragon Ball Z. I kid you not, simply, there just never were enough people skilled and patient enough to craft excellent original characters. As it is, you're definitely not one of them. I would comment about de facto unoriginality of your characters, but one person already nailed it. So, Mr. Evil Slayer X5, if you still aren't convinced with whatever we said before and still want to attack us anyways, I dare you. In my case, you can't. You see, there is not a single character I made specifically with perfect accuracy in mind, and my most popular one even somehow managed to get quite a praise from some of the very purists you've mentioned. I also warned in one forum about the actual potential dangers the corporations are cooking, and even made 2 videos kind of speaking out against current owner of the video hosting service you're watching this video on, so you definitely can't say that I'm politically blind.
And the war over freedom of information is only beginning. Viacom suing Google's YouTube for member-generated content, Square Enix and Nintendo clamping down on fan work, the Pirate Bay selling out. Many people view this as a beginning of the end, but others see it as a call for solidarity. The people you claim are pawns of the corporations feel every bit as oppressed as the next guy. Just because we do not feel the need to express about it does not mean we are not aware.
But in case you manage to make an attempt at striking me anyways, as a reminder I will fight your released characters using my own work in progress, which while I do admit it may not be as successful, it may still have a chance of gaining some praise from these so-called evil circles, despite being even less accurate to the source than how you play on your characters. But that's for another video, due to how much time we've spent on chit-chatting. Until then, have a good day.
Come on and slam! See what I'm really made of.